my screen? Excellent.
That's good.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. This is really an honor. I'm so happy to be here with everybody and really excited to get to share my experience with you. I hope it might be useful. And I really would intend for this to be an exchange. So if you have any questions, if you want to reach out after, I'd be happy to help in any way I can. I'm looking for help, but what I have learned about user experiences as journey is that people are very willing to help, and we're all helping each other no matter what stage of the journey we're in. So happy to be here with you. So for this talk, I'm going to really try to take the format of a case study, which is a pretty common format for presenting work in a portfolio context. So I'm going to kind of present the work of this presentation in that context. Okay, but first, so in preparing this presentation, I was reading some articles that I thought were worth mentioning because UX is not like getting a degree in medicine, right? There's a universally recognized certification. That is not the case in UX. And so in UX, I find there are a lot of people who proclaim a lot of wisdom, who claim to know a whole lot about a lot of things. And the reality is that much of what we do is subjective, and that design thinking as a term is a loaded term, and they're just kind of, it's to be taken with a grain of salt. I think that's the first headline here really says it all, and there's a link there if you follow the presentation after, and you can click on that link and read the article. The second one is actually really interesting because it's a local connection to Gainesville, where we are located. And basically IDEO is a design consultancy based out of California, and they are the ones who sort of branded design thinking. Not that design didn't exist before or design thinking, but they were the ones who essentially packaged it. And for that reason, it is associated with UX and this hexagonal model that we know of with empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, implement. That comes from them. And so in 2013, IDEO worked with the city of Gainesville and in producing this Blue Ribbon report. And this was a moment of great optimism for Gainesville. The city was on the cover of a couple of magazines. It was profiled as this kind of up and coming city that was connected and improving itself. And it turns out that, at least from my experience, there are people here who might be able to speak to this better, but it is somewhat of a cautionary tale in terms of you can have design thinking and you can have all the best intentions, but if you are making assumptions, for example, solving the wrong problem, or not defining the problem in a way that is inclusive to all the stakeholders who will be participating in the solution, then you're going to have issues. And so what fell out from this Blue Ribbon report for Gainesville was that a number of officials from the city government resigned, and a suit was brought by the NAACP against some individuals on the board for basically they were pushing people out and bringing in millennials from out of Gainesville to try to implement forward-thinking, design thinking oriented improvements. And so anyways, I just think that's worth giving as a bit of context and a grain of salt for the bootcamp experience, which was really positive, and I'm very happy to share with you. So just by the numbers. So I have recently completed the online UX bootcamp and UI design specialization, which I think is what Marie said that she was going to do. And 600 plus hours of coursework, 3 portfolio ready projects, a number of new software tools, 20 plus hours of face-to-face contact with course mentors, 75% increase in my LinkedIn network, which was not easy because I was not a creature of LinkedIn, but you will learn if you are new to UX that it is you will become a lurker. It is an essential place to socialize and to share your work. And then many hours, 5 hours of meeting with different industry professionals who I've been connected with through the boot camp, or several generations removed from people who I met through boot camp. So a little bit of an overview. I was a student. This took about 12 months. There were a couple of extensions because of COVID, so that really was to my advantage because we have a 5-year-old and we don't have any family in town. So the challenge was, how do I, because I also have a full-time job, I am working mostly from home, and we didn't have daycare for a number of months. So CareerFoundry was really great about making allowances and giving some additional time. So I should have been finished with this boot camp a couple of months ago, but they were able to offer the flexibility so that I could take the time that I needed, which normally they would charge for. They charge extra by the month that you need. But so you can see here, there are a number of tools that I picked up. I did not have familiarity with any of these tools or any of these skills or techniques before CareerFoundry. So you can see that you get a wide exposure to a lot of the essential tools that should be in your belt as a user experience designer, whatever end of the spectrum you're in, whether it's more towards the front end and concepting or more towards the UI end and the visual. So the challenge, again, this is in the context of in the format of a case study, but the challenge was for me to change careers by completing an online virtual boot camp that guarantees a job upon completion. So that's pretty enticing, right? And the outcome of this bootcamp is that I did complete 3 projects. I have my portfolio, I've been receiving career support, and I have a growing professional network and an online presence. All of these are things that I never would have had on my own. CareerFoundry really has helped me develop kind of a multi-pronged approach of the work, but then the work means nothing if not presented, right? And also supported. And there's a real aspect of salesmanship to getting started in user experience design. And I am seeking employment. I do have a job right now through the end of June, but I am on the job market and doing everything I can to, including this presentation, to raise my visibility and get out there. I already introduced myself, I think. My name is Drew, and I have kind of an unlikely background, a pretty circuitous route that I've taken to user experience design. I most recently was a school teacher and a researcher in education. I've also been a civil engineer. I studied city planning. I was an actor. So, I've always had this desire to find meaning, right? To make a difference in some way. And so I think in user experience design, it's the realization that maybe there is a common thread there that is trying to impact the human experience in some way. And I think in user experience design, I have a way to bring all of these together in a way that is both creative, but also technical. And that's what I find appealing about it. So a bit of background about CareerFoundry. It is based out of Germany. They are international. They have a number of different programs. It's self-paced and asynchronous, which for me was a major advantage because I can do this on my own time. It is not video-based, and I personally prefer that. I like text. So if you are textually oriented, if you're not textually oriented, this is maybe not the experience for you, but I appreciated being able to read and digest on my own time. And then there's just assignments that you submit within a certain time range, and you will get feedback from your tutor. And you can see supported by your tutor, your mentor, and a career specialist. And there is this job guarantee. So design thinking. This is what I referenced earlier, and this is really the template on which the projects in CareerFoundry are based. So there's the sort of super level, which is the understand, explore, materialize, or discover, conceptualize, implement, prototyping, testing. There's different ways of calling these out, but essentially it's always a loop that starts with understanding and moves through building understanding and building a concept and fleshing out the concept and then rendering it visual and then bringing it to a point of testing and so on, right? And continuing to iterate. So I have these 3 projects that I developed, and I'll show you a little bit of each of those. The first project is Lexical. Lexical is an on-the-go learning app for specialized medical terminology designed for healthcare professionals. And the concept is that you are building a lexical network between terms and their context of use. So it's a little bit, I like to think of it as a moleskin in 3 dimensions, because you're taking notes, but you're also building connections between those notes based on the location, the individuals who are present. And this is a rudimentary, this was a low fidelity app, but it did have several requirements that were baked into the assignment, because this was an assignment that I just adapted to be interesting in a way that I connected with, because I used to be a Spanish interpreter in hospitals. And so I thought it was really interesting. I could relate to all the terminology that you get exposed to in a clinical setting. So the assignment for this project was to learn and practice design thinking by designing a mobile app for learning vocabulary. And you saw the basic feature requirements on the previous page. The focus with this project, as it was the first project, was really to walk through design thinking, but without getting hung up on the technology. So based, there was no design, there was no Adobe software, there was no Figma. It was just sketching on paper, and then there is technology that allows you to convert paper wireframes into an interactive prototype, and so that's what we did. The royal we, meaning me, team of 1. Okay. So, and then these are just some examples of some artifacts. So user survey, user research, something you'll do if you're doing projects on your own, and especially in pandemic time. So I picked a project, and this would be wise of you to do, is to pick a project that your circle will allow you to, you have a circle, a community of people who you can call upon for help. So I happen to know a lot of people in my family and in my circle who are in medicine or in healthcare or in the sciences. And so I was able to interview a number of people who were appropriate, true potential users, and get meaningful feedback. And then on the right here, you can see a persona that I developed based on the research that I conducted. And I made these paper wireframes, as you can see here on the left. It was my first time doing that, and I must say it was quite painstaking. And I took many pictures. My wife was just like, can we throw this away? And I just had this roll of wireframes that I did not want to let go of because it was so much time. And but it was fun. It was a great project. On the right here, you can see just an example of a user flow that I built for this project. And that was something I really enjoyed, and something that kind of, for me, came as a clue that, oh, this is something I enjoy. Maybe this is something I need to look more into, how I can continue to develop skills in information architecture and site mapping, user flow. This is just an example of screens that move you through the process of adding a term and then adding tags to that term. So the term was choledocholithiasis, which I got from a friend of mine who's in med school. And then the idea would be that you can add some tags to that term. And then it becomes searchable based on those tags. And on the right, you can just see that's the way I built the prototype in Marvel, which is super simple. It's an app you can put on your phone. You can take pictures of your wireframes with your phone, and you have an interactive prototype. It's pretty cool, powerful. Okay, second project. This project is called Fotonovelas for Health Literacy. And this project ties into my work because I work with this nonprofit who supports Hispanic immigrants in the greater Gainesville region. And those are predominantly Spanish-speaking individuals who have limited education, limited literacy, limited access to resources. There are so many challenges in particular for this population. One of them is health literacy. And so the purpose for this project was to adapt a comic book style resource that was already in use by this organization, the Rural Women's Health Project, and to convert that into something that was digital and interactive. And so you can see that I tried to focus on mobile first design pattern, fully bilingual site design and UI, integrated audio narration built into the UI, which was really cool, to promote accessibility to low literacy users. So yeah, so then looking here at you can see there were many more artifacts and techniques from the user experience toolbox that were brought out in the course of this project, because this project took several months. And this was the goal, the scope was across the product lifecycle. And ultimately this did yield a high fidelity mobile prototype for a web app. And you can see all these things along the bottom. I especially connected with the research component, the discovery component of this project, because as you might imagine, it's difficult to approach and learn much about a population who doesn't want to be approached or have much learned about them. But that really, again, brought to my mind the importance of user research and how powerful it is to know your user community and the importance of defining the problem accurately, right? Because kind of referring back to the Gainesville story, if a problem is not solved inclusively, then the solution may be irrelevant or meaningless. So just some examples here of some deliverables. You can see this is a user journey on the left for my persona Astrid. And on the right, you can see a persona that I developed for Astrid. And basically the idea is that this is a person who needs healthcare and doesn't know how to go about getting it, and who is just in an agricultural rural setting in North Central Florida. And so it's a very specific context, but it's important that you really specifically define your context so that you can compare your solution against the needs that you've defined for this person, this imagined person.
For these deliverables that you just reviewed, is this something that Bootcamp got into a lot of detail on how to do, or was it higher level and you had to kind of interpolate everything and create something?
You know, it's really, I would say it's more just kind of like a textbook presentation of what a persona is, and then it's up to you to, in the digital format allows you to search and look at other examples, and they actually let you look and see what other people have submitted beforehand, but it's not interactive in the way of, there's not an opportunity to ask a lot of questions in a real-time setting, but I found my way through it mainly just because there's such a wealth of persona resources and examples online that that was how I built it.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. These were wireframes, just showing you an example of the evolution from a lower fidelity paper wireframe to mid-fidelity wireframes. With paper wireframes, this time I tried to actually made little scraps of paper that I tried to move around, and which also was very time consuming. And anyways, I don't think I've entirely worked out that my handwriting is horrible. And I think I prefer balsamic. If you've ever used balsamic for wireframes, it's really cool and has a more polished, low fidelity look that's legible, which I like. And then I did run usability testing, and you can just see here that document for preparing the usability testing. It was remote moderated testing. Again, this is a pandemic consideration. All the testing was by Zoom. All of the participants were remote, and scheduling was remote. The testing was bilingual, which I think is worth mentioning just because I'm bilingual and I consider that an asset as a designer, as a person, as a professional. And so I was able to conduct some of the usability testing in Spanish. And we did some preference testing also. Just these are all things that are kind of boxes that you're ticking along the trajectory of the course. There are different things you need to do that, they might not all add tremendous value to the project, but it's about being exposed to these different kinds of techniques and tools that are used.
Naya, you had a question. Did you want to come off mute and ask real quick?
Yeah, so I was having a question, like those all 3 projects were like real world, or you did it for fictional or something?
Yeah, so the projects that CareerFoundry gives in their material for you to do are all boilerplate projects. So I was given the opportunity by my mentor. He said, you have a lot of experience. You don't need to do one of these projects. The other projects were design an app for tattoos, for helping people decide what kind of tattoo they want, which I have no interest in that. Design an app for finding weather conditions related to water recreation, like surfing and fishing, that kind of thing. Also not of interest. Anyways, I was very lucky, grateful for the chance to work on my own projects, because always you want to do things that are relevant to you and that it makes it easier for you to relate and to explain the decisions you made. And I am told that it's just much more impactful in a job interview setting when you can talk about something you did that was real, as opposed to some project that you did, essentially in a silo without interaction or engagement from the world. So yeah, these are all real projects in the sense that they are based on my ideas, but they are not projects that have been realized in the real world.
Exactly. So that's not exist in world right now, right? It doesn't.
Correct. Yes. No, I have not built these out. That is my goal. I'm trying to learn enough front-end development that I can build this fotonovela project out, build out my portfolio in code. But right now, these are just prototypes.
Okay, so like, can you ask to you like bootcamp, your bootcamp mentor, like you want to do some real world project to get more experience, right? So I mean, would it be possible for them to give you, or they just say no, you have to do something by yourself or something?
They absolutely. My mentor was. I'm such a student. I'm really a lifelong student. I have more years in school and higher ed than I'm proud of, honestly. And so I have a very traditional expectation of what mentoring and education looks like. And my mentor was kind of unconventional in that way. He told me from the beginning, you don't have to finish this course. You can be applying for jobs now and you could get a job before this course is over. So don't feel like you have to finish this course, which was surprising feedback. But I think that was good feedback, because he was not in it he was not part of the machine, so to speak, of, this machine that is CareerFoundry or something. Everybody is very encouraging. And in fact, if I had other projects that I wanted to work on or workshop or sort of woodshed with my mentor, he was happy to go over any other projects. So this project is the reason for the interaction, but you can bring in anything that you are working on, and you have enough calls that you can make with your mentor that you can go over pretty much anything.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm probably going to say this wrong. Sania, did you want to ask your question?
Hi, Drew. Hi, everyone. I wanted to ask Springboard, and so I've been doing my research on which bootcamp to join, and I've done some talking to Springboard and General Assembly, but I haven't done any research on CareerFoundry. I have looked into it, but not in detail. So one of my questions is that Springboard and General Assembly both offer internships at the end of the course where you can do have an experience of one real-time project that you can add to your portfolio. Does CareerFoundry give the same opportunity?
CareerFoundry does not have that baked into the program, so to speak, but I don't think that it's much of a leap to finish a boot camp and then reach out and make the connections that allow you to work on a real world project. And I'll talk a little bit later in the presentation about ways that you can find real world projects and collaborators. And there is also, and I can mention this again at the end too, but for example, joining a professional organization like User Experience Professionals Association, they have a mentorship, and I am looking forward to, I missed the last round, but you can get a mentor with UXPA, and then they will actually work with you weekly on a real world project. So no, that's not included with CareerFoundry, but I don't think it would be difficult to find a real world project. And it just is a matter of networking and building the connections and having an interest to pursue specifically. I think that's really the key.
Okay, one last question. You mentioned that CareerFoundry gives mentorship as well because it's a self-paced program, so someone has to check in your portfolios or your projects. So I know that Springboard has a very limited gives very limited sessions with with the mentors. Does CareerFoundry also give limited sessions, or it's anytime I can contact and you can contact and you can get access to your mentor?
Yeah, well, you can have, I believe you have some number of calls that would be impossible to exhaust, or at least for me. I think they maybe give you 100 phone calls with your mentor across the duration of the project. And I spoke to my mentor. He told me I spoke to him more than most of his students did. And I think we met 7 or 8 times, maybe. Something like that, maybe even 10 times, but still, I mean, way below. You have essentially, for your purposes, assuming the average person's needs and level of intensity with this work, I think you have essentially infinite interactions possible with your mentor. And then the mentors and tutors are also available on Slack, so you can ask small questions during the day to your mentor or to other people in the other peers in the CareerFoundry community also on Slack.
Thank you, Drew.
Sure. So this was my last project that I did with CareerFoundry, and this was a UI focus. I did this as part of my specialization for user interface design, and I really enjoyed this project. This project was relevant to me personally because, as I was referring to earlier, I'm very much a student at heart, lifelong learner, and I have been a student of the University of Florida and a frustrated individual with their website. And so all of those were essentially the right ingredients for a good case study and for a good redesign. So I looked at their website, and for my design, again, CareerFoundry gave you some options as far as what kind of project do you want to do. They had several boilerplate options where they give you all the details, or they had this fourth option that was a redesign of your choice. And so you had to have your redesign meet with certain requirements, but I made up the whole project myself, and my mentor was very encouraging and really supportive. I had a great mentor for this. It's a different mentor for the specialization. I had a very good mentor. So on this project, as you can see prominently, the focus was search and filter functionality, more similar from e-commerce, that I just think is very straightforward and would be a great way to be able to search academic programs, as opposed to what right now is a really deep architecture that is very unfriendly to a prospective student. So being that this was a UI focused project, the bulk of the artifacts and deliverables were in the concepting stage of the work. I did develop a competitive analysis that I'm going to share because I enjoyed that process and I think it was important. but yeah, the bulk of this was around the getting to the pixels, right? The level of the pixels, which is not really where I want to focus in my career, but it was great practice. So this is just an example of competitive analysis as I developed it using Figma. So I took a bunch of shots of different websites and did just kind of created a big desktop with notes and images of the different websites, and then also used this as the source for my mood board and for finding inspiration for what I wanted to do with my design. So I highly recommend Figma as a platform for this. Here are a couple of user flows. On the left, you can see the user flow in gray that is for the existing website. So it's really, I think it's 6 clicks if you want to make it all the way to the graduate catalog. And it actually, you have to first default to the undergraduate catalog and then just keep hunting because you're very persistent and you've decided UF is exactly where you want to be. And ultimately you will make it, but I found it really frustrating and surprising that it would be so challenging. So the flow on the right is a simplified flow to get you straight to what I think many users to this website want to do, which is find out what the programs are and get more information. So on the left, you have the mood board that I created. So this is essentially just a bunch of images of different websites, colors, typography, logo, things to inspire and inform and shape the design that you come up with. So it will be consistent. And I developed a style guide. And you can see kind of a collage of some of the pages from the style guide on the right. And basically that's just about the specifications for when you hand off this project to the developers so that they know exactly what those buttons need to look like and how big the text should be and all of those aspects. And then this is just an example of, this is what I did in my portfolio. And I think it's a great thing. When you do a redesign, I think it's really helpful to pick something that, like I said, that you have a connection with. Also, ideally, something that is relatable to the people who will be looking at your portfolio. So locally, that would be people who work at the University of Florida. So I think they already have some skin in the game and they appreciate what you're trying to do. So here you can see the existing program search on the left, and then you can see my program search on the right. So those were the projects. The other aspect, which we talked a little bit about, is the mentoring, the peer collaboration, and career support. So you do have a mentor, a tutor, a student advisor, and a career specialist. And of course, kind of getting back to what Michelle was saying earlier, nothing beats, this isn't what she was saying, but basically the truth is that nothing beats face-to-face. Nothing beats the ability to ask clarifying questions in the moment about, wait a second, a persona, why do we need to do a persona? Or is this persona right? You know, did I do this in a way that is useful? So you can get that feedback, but you also have to ask intelligent questions. This is not a, this is a pass-fail environment, and you can do a lot to pass without necessarily excelling, if that makes sense. But I found this a pretty workable format for me. And you can see here some of the features. So course mentor available, your tutor checks individual assignments. I did become pretty frustrated with my tutor in one of the courses because I was working so hard on this fotonovela project and I was really getting very cursory feedback on those individual tasks because your mentor does not review the individual tasks. The mentor reviews the summative compilation of all the deliverables for each module of the project. But it's really just hit or miss, and you can always ask for additional feedback, which is what I told him, that I really didn't feel like I was getting enough useful information about what I had done, right? Because it can be pretty lonely to be in this on your own. And to that, I mentioned the Slack channel for peer collaboration, which I think is worth taking advantage of. I did not make extensive use of that, but you have all these peers. Those are the people that you go to for, hey, can you do a preference test for my site? Has anyone ever used Home Depot app for delivery? And if you have, could you please fill out this quick survey? There's a big community of people who you can ask for help with those kinds of assignments. So the outcome, I completed this boot camp. I'm actually in another course now for front-end development because I'm really trying to not to be the unicorn, because we all know that that's not possible. If you know the term of the unicorn being someone who can do it all, someone who is truly a team of one, which really does not make sense with user experience design for some of the reasons that I've mentioned, but it is really good depending on where you are in the world or in the market to have certain skills. So I have completed the bootcamp. I am still upskilling. I am actively applying for jobs. I'm meeting regularly with people in industry, attending online events like this one. I am writing case studies, and this is some aspects of this program that have been really cool. Some of the things you end up doing that might end up being the most successful are not the things you do because of or as part of a course assignment. So my mentor turned me on to just here's a great platform for building your portfolio. People are always on Medium. You should write an article on Medium. And so that's kind of a place where I'm trying to build presence, because a lot of people do read on Medium. Medium's a great platform. It's full of a lot of people who think they know a lot about a lot of things, but it also has a lot of good content there as well. And you can just see here on the right some examples of my portfolio, an article I wrote on Medium, and my certificate. So analysis, in the end, I would say that some form of structured UX training is essential, because like I was saying, UX is it's not like learning to code, where this is essentially something that you can do on your own. It's a language. You just go into a room and focus on nothing else and bulldoze through it. I think you really do benefit from the structure that takes you through the trajectory of a project. And I think a boot camp is worth it. You get knowledge, experience, mentoring, connections. I didn't talk about the expense, but I'd be happy to share with you, because I know that people are looking at how much these experiences cost, and I certainly did. And this is one of the more affordable boot camps. It cost $5,900, and that compared to some of the other ones I looked at that were 10,000 plus. So I think this was, considering that I had exposure to all of these mentors and all of this feedback, and the course ended up taking about a year, a little over a year. That was money well spent. But the second point, that UX Bootcamp is not sufficient. Again, this is not a diploma for med school that you say, I have it, I would like to practice now. And somebody just says, by all means, and you walk into the lab and have your job. Boot camps do oversimplify design by necessity, right? Because it is a formulaic curriculum that you are buying and purchasing and using, and it takes place over a compressed period of time, but there is an oversimplification there of design. There's some lack of analysis, and this is kind of, again, makes me think of what Michelle was saying about the personas. There's, hey, let's do a persona. Hey, let's create a user flow. Hey, let's do a journey. And then the feedback you get might be, you did that. You did all the things that you were supposed to do. Check. But there's not the analysis and the conversation that I think you would have in a more collaborative setting to say, does that persona really reflect the users that you're designing for? Or to what degree do you want to build everything around? Because I'm still not sure about personas. I think that's useful, but of course that's not a real person either. So I don't think I'd want to design. How far can you go on your own designing for a person that you yourself came up with? And again, I think that kind of gets back to the point I was trying to make about design thinking and empathy. And we can't all empathize with everyone in the world just through the magic of design thinking. So again, Bootcamp is not sufficient, so it's not realistic at some level, right? There is no such thing as a team of one. Projects benefit from and are challenged by the realities of collaboration. And I do think collaboration is essential and something I really look forward to in starting in this field. And next steps. So all of these things are ongoing, and it's really about deciding how to make sense of your time, depending on how much time you have, but finding practice, volunteering, upskilling, writing, networking, conferences, job applications. There's so many titles. The more people I talk to, the more titles I collect for jobs that I might want to apply for, that I might actually be qualified for, even though I wouldn't think so. So it's just crucial to, once you remote boot camp is a pretty solitary experience. And I waited until the end to really engage with the outside world. And I think it would be to the advantage of anyone who is looking at a boot camp to really strategically engage with professionals, colleagues, peers, to seek out those connections early on in your process so that you really have an understanding of what reality you will be in when you finish the course. So I wanted to share some ideas and resources for if you're somebody who is kind of in this place that I am in after this course. For volunteering, UX Rescue, I have not started any projects here, but this is a website that I've been referred to as a place that you can find real world projects with collaborators that are meaningful, pertaining to nonprofits, community-minded efforts, cool opportunities. Again, not something I've taken advantage of yet, but a great resource for sure. Other ideas for practice, independent projects, redesigns, like the project I did for University of Florida. Just looking at apps that you use, that you think that there could be something, maybe you might want to run some testing and find out if it's working for people who use it, and then reach out to people in industry and say, hey, I ran this test on Udemy's website and I found these issues. I'd love to meet with you and talk about some of the things that I found, which I also did a case study on Udemy. So that was something that, or Udemy, that I have done. Yeah, becoming a tester on Usability Hub. I think that was actually something Michelle first gave me the idea for. Design challenges. There's all kinds of design challenges that you can seek every day, building some specific user interface element, and all of those are things you can do on a daily basis. Even upskilling, there's always more to learn. It's just a matter of how much can you take on without exploding, right? So to some degree, you do need to focus and decide what matters. Reading and writing in UX, it's just crucial to be clued in and to have your finger on the pulse to some degree, as far as what are people talking about, what are the trends in the specific area of your interest, and then the networking piece. So networking is really the most important thing you can do. My career mentor tells me that she didn't believe it, but it really is true, that I'm going to misquote the statistic, but maybe 80% of jobs come from recommendations as opposed to from traditional cold applications on a job site. And that is kind of mind-blowing, but it is true. So you really do need to build that network. It's got to get out and do things like this, look for opportunities to share your story, to try to raise your profile, get some visibility, join organizations, look for Slack channels. these are some Slack channels that I have joined. Gainesville Connect is a local channel. Maybe you have a local channel where you are that you can look for. I would recommend it. And I wanted to share a discount code for you to sign up with CareerFoundry, but their website was down when I was trying to find it at this very inconvenient moment, because you could get the discount and I would get a referral bonus. And so I will add it if I can find it before I share this presentation with Michelle.
You can post it onto the Meetup event if you want as a comment.
Okay,
That way
great.
everybody can access it.
Perfect.
I also dropped in a list of other UX research and design related Slack communities that I'm a part of. There's a million of them out there, so definitely reach out. Many of them have mentorships. A lot of them have job postings and events. There's also one that I didn't list, which is Hexagon UX, which is for women in UX and people who identify as non-binary, and other marginalized groups. So you can take a look at those groups as well.
Thank you. That's great. And then that's it. I would be happy to answer any questions. I'd love to connect with you. Again, if you have, whether it's a work opportunity, a collaboration idea, you want to talk boot camps, bounce ideas off of me, I'd be happy for that. If you're local and you want to go for a run, I'm a big runner. Be happy to do that as well, as we are opening up. And I know I've had both of my vaccines now, so I'm ready to get out on the town in a conservative way as a dad. But I'd be happy to meet up with you and in any context that's comfortable for you locally if you're around. And at the bottom, yeah, you can see here some links for my portfolio, email, LinkedIn, my articles on Medium, and thank you so much for your time and for sharing this evening with me.
This was great, Drew. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I would definitely love to see that coupon because it's definitely something that, even though I've been doing this for 6 years, I think it's something that we can all learn from regardless of how long we've been in the field for. So much appreciated. Naya, I know you had one last question. Did you want to come off mute and ask that?
Yeah, I just have a question about volunteering. So do they ask for a portfolio, or you'll get it just right away whenever you apply? And
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
yeah, so for volunteering, what is the requirements? Like, do I need to have a portfolio, or I can go like without having portfolio? As I'm a self-taught UX designer, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have enrolled IDF, that's Interaction Design Foundation, last year. So I've completed a couple of courses, but I'm still struggling to make my own portfolio. But since if I get some good opportunity in volunteering, so I would have a good work to show somewhere. So I'll get a job. That would be easier for me. I mean,
Well, I think that's one of the real advantages, something I have found challenging about user experience design because of the previous careers that I have been in, is that it is not so straightforward, but the advantage for people to enter the field is that it is not so straightforward. There's no ticket required, so to speak. And so you don't have to have any experience other than what you can present. If you are on this volunteering website, you do fill out an application when you want to get onto a project, and somebody, my understanding is with UX Rescue anyway, will review your application, but you are as valuable as what you can show that you know how to do and have done. And I think that's what's really powerful about UX. And also what I found really intimidating is that it's as much about telling the story of what you can do as opposed to just doing it. You have to do it in a way that you can share with the world. So I would focus on that if that's not so much what you've been working on. If you have work that you're proud of, I would say carve out some time and just really work on making that presentable in a way that is intuitive for you to share with somebody and that you are proud of.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a quick question for you, Drew. What if you had to narrow it down to one thing, what do you think the most valuable part of the boot camp was for you?
I got the most out of the user interface specialization, but the reason for that was really that I connected in a special way with my mentor. My mentor for the UX project, he's fantastic and he has been a really great help for me in a career sense, but he was less of a UX designer and more of an entrepreneur. And so the kind of support that I was getting was more about selling myself and less about the work. So I don't feel like I grew as much professionally in the user experience immersion portion of the program. But that's also, I was newer to the program. I had more going on. That was, closer to the beginning of COVID. But I personally just found of course, the stuff that is technical, the stuff that you could not do on your own, I'm very able to focus. But when it comes to things like Adobe XD and Adobe Illustrator, I think having the frame of a boot camp and the structure of the assignments is the only way that somebody like me could really ramp up and build meaningful skills in those areas. So I think that getting concrete feedback on these highly technical tasks, I found that particularly meaningful.
Great, thank you. Marie, I think you had your hand up next.
Hi. So I know you said the boot camp is a little bit unrealistic when it comes to, being the solo do everything UX designer, and you're kind of excited for, I guess, more collaborative opportunities. And I'm wondering if you've had any of those yet, like in your real world UX experience.
That's a great question. I am not right now, just because I have so many things that are going on, and I'm still, for me, I'm still sort of in the phase of trying to present all that I have just finished, and less in the phase yet of really dedicating myself to taking on new work. So I don't have any proud collaborative moments yet to share, but maybe it's also worth mentioning that in the context of finding a job and starting your adventure in user experience, that it's worth going back and sifting through your previous experiences and finding the user experience decision making and thinking that is represented in the other things that you've done. Because in my case, I work right now in education research. And so my next project, as I see it, really is to write up the case study of how the work that I have done in my real job is in fact meaningful from a user experience and particularly a research angle. So there was collaboration in that context, and that's something that I know recruiters want to see. There is, of course, you want to be able to show soft skills, and the way you can show those soft skills is by, among other things, writing about the other things that you've done, writing about things that are interesting to you, writing about how you've worked in other settings with people, and showing your ability to make good decisions and to analyze the situation. So long-winded answer to the question, which is to say no, but I have experiences that I am processing for presentation in a way that is to that point of collaboration.
Thank you.
And Shraddha?
Hi. So quick introduction before I ask my question. I'm Shraddha. I am a UX designer and I have recently moved to the US. So yeah, and since I am, still waiting for my work permit, which may take 3 or 4 months. So I was looking, to get to jump into one of these boot camps so that it's a smooth transition. So I was looking at CareerFoundry voice interface design course because I already have 4 years of work in the UX field. So a beginner course may not be for me. So I just wanted to know, and my question is more from a job perspective, that once you complete your course and you speak with recruiters or with the company, with industry professionals, so do they look at you, since you are fresh out of a boot camp, do they look at you as a beginner, or while recruiting they do consider your previous experience in the field?
Well, and this is something I'm kind of confronting on a daily basis in terms of the way I present myself online, and I'd welcome anybody else to chime in on this too. But I think you are as much of a beginner or as much of an experienced designer as you see yourself. So I think it's to your advantage to present yourself as convincing to present yourself as experienced, to find the ways in which you are experienced and to talk up and present that experience in a very specific way. I think it is not, I don't think it is to your advantage to call yourself a beginner. I think the worst thing that happens is you get into a place where you then have to take on some task in an interview context that you can't do. And then that's a lesson. But I think that for me, the boot camp goes onto my LinkedIn because that is an achievement for me. But I know for many people, they wouldn't even put the boot camp on their profile because maybe they don't want to look like somebody who completed a boot camp. But I think that it's to your advantage. Everything is to your advantage if it's in the service of learning and improving what you do. And I think you will make the impression of beginner or experienced that you make based on how you feel you are when you are presenting yourself, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Kind of a Sphinx-like answer.
Okay. Yeah, that does. And I have just one last question. So I was going through some reviews of CareerFoundry, and I found a very common feedback was that when you are onboarding or on your first day, there's usually you are left to fetch for yourself and figure out how do you want to connect with your mentor or something like that. So is that true, or there is somebody who will be there on the first day to kind of onboard you to the course?
No, I would not say there are no, this could be depending on the kind of person you are, it could be good, could be bad, but there are no checkpoints in terms of, you could in fact go the entire duration of the course and never schedule a call with your mentor. You don't have to have any interaction with your mentor. That person is there, but you don't have to talk to that person. And because the assignments are written in such a specific way that your tutor can check your assignments for, do they do all the things they're supposed to do? And then your mentor will give you video feedback. So at the end of every module, you present all the tasks from that achievement. And then a video gets recorded by your mentor with feedback. And then, but no, it's all on you. There are no live meetings. There are office hours meetings sometimes virtually with different people with the course, but I never attended any of those. There is nothing, to answer your question, no, it's all on you to meet with people on your schedule, but it is very straightforward to schedule those meetings, I found.
So even with recruiters, is it the same thing? Do they just let you know that these are the recruiters, or do they reach out?
No, absolutely not. The career, I also, again, to Michelle's question about things that I found useful, I found the career module particularly useful because that's actually also worth mentioning, crucial to mention, that without completing this, the career component of the course is optional, but if you don't complete it, you don't qualify for the job guarantee. And the career module takes you through all of these really essential elements of presenting yourself that you would not necessarily know about. So you get feedback on how to write your LinkedIn profile, how to write your summary, how to design it so that it is sensitive to keyword searches. You get feedback on your resume and on, you record yourself answering interview questions. All of these are really useful things that you get from your career mentor. And I actually can't think why now. I feel like I'm rambling talking about that, but I just wanted to say that I have found that oh, because you were asking about recruiters. So you are given the career coach is not a UX person. It is he is a career coach who has experience coaching people who are emerging in the UX and design and tech industry. So they give you a lot of recommendations. I have not been referred to any recruiters in particular. I've found out about some opportunities just by reaching out to different people. You know, you apply for a job and then you look at that company's website and you find people on LinkedIn, and then you see if there's anybody on LinkedIn who works at that company who you have something in common with that person. Maybe, oh, she does yoga, I do yoga too, right? That's something, you know, you can find some tiny, just a little something to be a personal connection, and then you reach out, and then in one case, that person has put me in touch with a recruiter just because of this informal meeting that we had.
Yeah, I think that answers all my questions. Thanks a lot.
Sure. If anybody else wants to add anything too, I'd be happy for that. Michelle.
I don't have much to add. I would say you're welcome to reach out to the Start GNV board. For those of you in the Gainesville area, there's a number of startups that we have in the community. They're often looking for, someone to help with UX. We're trying to really push that forward in our local community, as we're a burgeoning UX group and tech hub here in Gainesville. So certainly would welcome you guys to reach out to them. You can reach out to James Gibson on Start GNV board through the Connect GNV Slack. If you like, you're welcome to reach out to me. I've already passed on some to James. I'm not sure what all is actually available right now, but you can always look at the startup communities in whatever your area is. Often they don't have very much capital to be able to hire someone, but certainly if you're looking for internship, something like that, they can typically accommodate those things and would be mutually beneficial to both of you. So I would encourage that. And in the meantime, just keep on learning any way you can. I think Drew talked about just, leveraging your social circles, whatever they work in, whatever, they do in their free time. See if you can come up with something that you can just do on the side to keep your brain busy and try new things. That can always build onto your portfolio. If there's, for example, a site that you hate, for me, it is Amazon Prime Video on their website. I think is awful. It is one of the worst user experiences of my life. I often suggest try redesigning that. Go through, this process of, doing usability testing, mocking up, doing some exploratory interviews with friends and family, building out some personas, building out jobs to be done, empathy maps. Like, as Drew said, like there's a ton of resources online to do all of these things. Nielsen Norman Group has a good list of UX practices that are available. I think they have it on a nice grid even, and you can kind of evaluate what you can do from the comfort of your home just to continue building that out. So, but yeah, the networking is a really big deal. I think you can find some great opportunities there, and reaching out to people who are doing the job that you want to do and understanding what their day-to-day looks like can really be helpful. I've actually I've done this in the last week or so of, talk to someone who was the director at doing UX research. And so talking to them about, what does your job look like? What do you love about it? What do you miss about doing this other stuff? So those networking skills never get old. They never go away. They're never not useful. So definitely encourage you guys to do that sooner than later.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. Drew, thank you again so much. Thank you all for all the great questions today. And Nettie, if you want to drop your email address, I can see if I can invite you. But I think you might be able to join the Florida UX channel. I think if you just do a Google search, you should be able to request an invite for that. So that's it for today. We do have our next meetup on May 4th. We always meet the first Tuesday of every month, and it will be on Zoom. Same time, same bat channel. And we will be talking to Kyle Redden, who is the Senior Assistant Director of Product Design at Infotech, also located here in Gainesville. So thank you guys all again for coming out tonight. If you have any questions, I would say let's feel free to leverage the Meetup event. You can add comments in there and I think we can reply to them. So you're welcome to continue the conversation there. And Nettie, if you are not able to find that link, just post into the that chat on the comment section on the event and I'll see if I can hook you up.
Thanks for your questions, guys. Thanks for being here and look forward to chatting with you further if you're interested. And thanks again, Michelle, for the opportunity.
Happy to have you. It
was fun.
Thanks all. See you guys next month.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.